So, I don't like politics, and I've already made one video that touched on political, uh, you know, areas, uh, and I don't want to feed into the maelstrom of hate and unrest and just the sort of collective socio-political chaos that is just dominating the news cycle as of late. But I have to comment on, well, I'm not sure what I want to comment on, but I knew I wanted to make a video about this. Whatever this is. The current governor of Florida, whose name is unworthy to be repeated here, the prevailing previous etiquette for any, I'm not too certain about the rules and regulations surrounding other political hopefuls, but it was my understanding that standing governors of a state, if it is their intent to run for other office, particularly higher office, they either have to resign or wait out their term before they announce a presidential bid. And I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I just read a thing that said that as of today, what is today? April 27th, 2023, or yesterday, or sometime this week, I guess. The law in Florida was just changed so that the standing or sitting governor can run for a different political office without having to resign. So I was bullied a lot when I was young. I endured a lot of ridicule and cruelty for various reasons. Not least of which was the fact that I either would not or could not hide any of all of these lights under a bushel. I.e., it was not the way I was raised or my modus operandi to be in the closet. And I suffered for it, among other things. I was a strange kid. I dressed strangely, I behaved strangely, I spoke and acted strangely, and I still do, but I think I've kind of grown into a sort of social awareness that has helped temper the awkwardness of my social presentation. Somewhat. But one thing that I noticed was a lot of the injustice surrounding my bullying. That the bullies knew how to play the game. They were cunning and sneaky and underhanded, and it was some twisted kind of skill they developed, or just seemed to innately possess, like being a duck that takes to water. They knew to look to see if the teacher was looking or not, or any person of authority. They knew, they developed a keen sort of sixth sense or intuition about what exactly to say, and whom were the weakest and most vulnerable amongst them to say these cruel things to. And then the delicious irony of it all was that even if they got caught, because I would finally snap, it was always, you both need to figure out how to get along. Or you need to be the bigger person. You have to turn the other cheek. You have to be the better person. You have to rise above. Don't stoop to their level. I just recently saved a screenshot of a tweet that said, it's interesting that whenever someone has been wronged, the onus to be the bigger person is always on the person who has been wronged. It was like, here I was, honor roll student, meek, bookworm, sociable, amicable, friendly, kind, helpful. And then, you'd have these C average, edging, with occasional gusts to D, underachievers, no effort, all the hallmarks of someone who is a troublemaker. And you'd have here the nerdy, meek little bookworm screaming, leave me the fuck alone. And I get in trouble for cursing. And then as soon as the teacher's back is turned, they smirk and they flip you the bird. Or, you get sent to the office, you both get in trouble. And no one ever said life was fair. No one ever said that, there was always going to be justice. During the end of Obama's presidency, Supreme Court vacancies came up, and the Republican, the conservative, and the right factions crowed and screamed, no, it's not right for you to fill those positions. You're the lame duck president. It should, your term is almost over. It's really more just and right that the incoming president get to fill those seats. And Barack Obama, ever the gentleman, and I'm not saying that Barack Obama was a saint, but the Democrats, they obeyed by this sudden precedent that was materialized out of thin air. And then magically, the notorious RBG passed away during Trump's presidency, and towards the end of his presidency, no less. And all of a sudden, of course it's Trump's right to fill that seat. It's his presidency. Bullies mold the system to fit the rules that they want, and they know how to cheat the system to get away with their bad behavior. Instead of the halls of high school, they're now the halls of Congress. These people are, there's no compunction about playing dirty. They have no qualms about bending the rules or outright cheating and hypocrisy to push through their agenda. There are laws being enacted and voted and approved in Florida, and there's censure and silencing going on in other state legislatures of, democratically elected Democratic representatives being censured and silenced for violating rules that Republicans have violated worse 100-fold over. But there's no principle to send these bullies to. And they're going to get away with it even if they did. I'm very worried about this country because the problem here is there is a cabal of politically and financially influential shadow plutocrats masquerading under the auspices of Christian, might makes right. What's the holier than thou? I can't even talk right now. I think I'm just getting old. Moral superiority. And what they're doing, as they have always done, is they hold up, a big scary boogeyman, to distract the populace from what's really going on. They are fomenting, that's such a great word, I love that word, fomenting, look it up, fomenting, fomenting a culture, race, and social civil war so that you don't see the class war that is being waged in the background, behind the scenes. In the 1920s through the 1960s, it was, the big boogie, scary black man. And then it was the 60s, it was, the filthy hippies. In 60s and 70s, it was, women who want burning their bras and want the right to vote, and want the right to abortion, excuse me. And then it was, it's, blacks and whites shouldn't marry, and women belong in the home, and, if you don't want to fight for, the U.S. in a war, you're a communist, and, and then they always lacked, and then it was immigrants. Immigrants are coming to steal your jobs. Meanwhile, they're outsourcing all of their jobs to the immigrants' home countries. So which is it? And now, for a while, they lost ground on the gays and the lesbians and the homosexuals and the, but now they're taking it back, and they're including trans people as well. No, I'm not very politically concrete on a lot of things, and I'm sure someone would be watching this video and be like, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. You're entitled to your opinions. I'm entitled to mine. We're all being played on both sides of the aisle, because there is a vested interest by a certain faction of people to pit us against each other, to distract us, to wave the boogeyman in our face, so that we'll grant them vast and sweeping powers of authority to save us from, the white, black, red, pink, blue menace, whatever, they're screaming about on TV. And these people that are screaming the loudest from their soapboxes and platforms, these politicians whose names are unworthy to appear here, they know it's bullshit. What they care about is power and money. And there are politically conservative individuals running on Democratic tickets and getting elected and then whoosh, flipping. And that's chilling. That's like, to me, that is base deceit. And because of a certain president whose name is unworthy to be repeated here, and his repeated thumbing of his nose at the Department of Justice and the rules of law and the standards and precedents observed by the predecessors whose boot heels he's unworthy to lick dog shit from. Even George H.W. Bush and his son, both men that I do not hold in any kind of high regard. I view them as Eagle Scout elder statesmen of repute and respect compared to this ignoramus and the damage, the real damage that has been wrought. Because now a lot of these people have become empowered by, his flouting of the law. They're like, oh, he can get away with it. Right? I don't have, like, wow, I can just ignore the law? Sure, fine. This thing with Fox News and I can't think of the name of the company, but the slander lawsuit that was just settled out of court. I think it should have gone to court, only for virtue of the fact that a lot of this stuff should have been dragged in front of the public's view. I feel that Fox News should have been dragged through the mud and had its social presence tarred and feathered in the court of public opinion, so that people could get, even if it's just a little bit of a wake-up call. Because I find it interesting that the day that the settlement was announced, every middle, impartial, and left-leaning, fair enough, news outlet announced it front and center on their web pages and on their, in their news broadcasts. When you went to Fox.com, it was the front, the top news article was about a sports athlete. Of course, no one's going to go around bragging that they have a big pimple on their ass. But you need to get a second opinion, ladies and gentlemen. You need to pay attention. You need to listen. You need to be able to recognize who the bullies are. Don't just vote along party lines just because. You need to ask yourselves the hard questions. You need to think for yourself. A third grade teacher in Austin, Texas, was just officially reprimanded by administrators in her school district because they said it came to their attention that she was teaching her students about their rights and their constitutional freedoms. And I believe the article said that the administrator said this is a concern for us. These people they're no longer not saying the quiet part quietly. They are saying the quiet parts out loud. And they have become so emboldened by the cheese puff, the Cheeto, that they say, oh, you don't like that? What are you going to do about it? You know, Republicans just voted to defund services for veterans. You know, and I keep seeing these things on Twitter and on social media about how I boldly stood behind you and voted for you, you know, because that, you know, that N-word wasn't even born American and he stole the presidency, and you know, and they were so quick to chant "lock her up" about Hillary, and you know, now they're like, oh, now I see light now that my rights are being infringed upon. You were so quick to swallow the Kool-Aid from these people, and now that it's affecting you, it's a problem. Well, a lot of the things they've been doing have been affecting a lot of people for a long time. Why is it only a problem when it affects you? You know, there's that saying, you know, when they came for the, you know, when they came for the Jews, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a Jew. And when they came for the political dissidents, I didn't speak, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I can't think of the old quote, but it was like, and when they finally came for me, no one was left to speak for me. I'm not anti-Republican. At the core, true values of what it means to actually be a Republican, I think a bit of fiscal conservatism is a good thing. It's good to not just spend willy-nilly, but I also believe that a strong public sector filled with social goods like roads and hospitals and bridges and schools, how, you know, in that sense, a rising tide lifts all boats. There needs to be a balance. There has to be a balance. Right now, there is no balance. And the fascist politicians who are masquerading as Republicans are playing dirty. They're playing dirty, and I don't know what la-di-da fantasy dreamland that the Democrats are lollygagging in, but you can't turn the other cheek. The stakes are too high. There is too much at stake to not fight back and to not stoop to their level. Because now that the real game has begun, now that it's for real, now that it's the quiet parts are being said out loud, these people are going to be playing for keeps. So we need to be as well. Ooh. I'm sorry. I'm not. Wake up. Everyone. I want to respect you, even if you are conservative, if you're right wing. I want to respect your religion. I want to respect your points of view, but you have to respect mine as well. You have to see the double standards, the double speak, the hypocrisy. Recognize these dangers, because they're not going to stop at us. They're not going to stop at gay, trans, liberal, Democrat. You know, they are going to come for you as well. They may not come for you as in taking you from your homes in the dead of night, putting black hoods over your head, but they're already doing it. Veterans are Republican and Democrat alike, and they've just voted to defund a large portion of services for veterans. And then think of things like The Handmaid's Tale and what's going on with the stripping of women's rights, the stripping of bodily autonomy for women. And it disturbs me when I see women smiling and clapping and cheering as they stand behind these rich white men in the halls of government as they sign these papers, in, these laws into these bills into law, and they're clapping each other on the back and clapping and smiling and congratulating each other on a job well done, as they create an increasingly bleak and dismal future for their daughters. There are no sacred cows as far as this cabal of fascist plutocrats is concerned. Their end goal is power and money, and they're going to strip it from as many people that threaten to stand in their way as possible. And that means you too, Christian Republicans. There will come a day when after they've taken us, they're going to set their sights on you. It's a zero-sum game. Don't believe me? Keep voting these people into office. Don't ask questions about the people you're voting into office, Democrats. Don't hold to account people who behave badly. Continue to vote people that won't fight for you in the halls of Congress and in the halls of government. Don't demand accountability. It's easy to take the lazy road out. But you're going to reap what you sow. And we're sowing a whirlwind. Wake up, people.